Apple's foldable iPhone has been one of the longest-running tech rumors of the decade, and now a fresh leak is putting the spotlight on something that could matter even more than the hinge, the crease, or the wow factor: repairability. According to a new claim circulating from a Weibo leaker, Apple's upcoming foldable, often referred to lately as the iPhone Ultra in rumor circles, may launch with a foldable display designed to be the easiest flexible screen to disassemble and repair in the industry. And if that sounds like a small detail, it could actually be a huge shift in what we expect from foldable phones and from Apple. Because let's be honest, foldables are incredible, but they're also expensive, delicate, and notoriously stressful to own once the warranty ends. So if Apple is truly building a foldable iPhone with a more repair-friendly modular display system, it could change the entire conversation around foldables, especially for people who have avoided them because screen repairs can be complicated and costly. Now, before we go any further, this is still a leak. Apple hasn't announced a foldable iPhone. Nothing is confirmed. But the specific wording here is what makes the rumor so interesting. The leaker reportedly describes the foldable screen as highly modular, implying that components of the display assembly could be separated, replaced, or serviced more easily than current-gen foldable panels, and they hint that once the device is released and the teardown videos start flooding YouTube, the meaning behind this claim will become obvious. That's a bold prediction, and it suggests the change isn't subtle. It suggests something about the internal structure is intentionally engineered for quicker, cleaner screen servicing. So what would a highly modular, foldable iPhone display actually mean? In the foldable world, the display isn't just a screen. It's an entire layered system. The flexible panel, protective layers, adhesives, frame supports, touch layers, and often complex routing for cables and sensors. Repairs can be difficult not because technicians aren't skilled, but because the assembly itself is designed in a way that makes disassembly risky and time-consuming. A modular approach could mean fewer destructive adhesives and more mechanical. Fasteners' clearer separation between the flexible panel and supporting components, easier access to the parts most likely to fail, simplified replacement steps that reduce labor time and design, that lowers the chance of damaging the device further during repair. And if repair becomes simpler, repair becomes cheaper. That alone would be a major advantage in a category where a single screen issue can feel like a game-over moment for your wallet. This also connects to a bigger trend: the global push for right-to-repair and more sustainable electronics. Across multiple regions, legislation and consumer pressure have been moving toward devices that are easier to service, easier to recycle, and less disposable. Apple has already taken steps in this direction in recent years, but the company still carries a reputation for devices that can be difficult to repair, especially compared to what many repair advocates want to see. If Apple launches a foldable iPhone with a repair-friendly display, it could be positioned as a forward-looking response to that pressure, while also solving one of the biggest fears people have about buying a foldable in the first place. Of course, there's a question that immediately follows: if Apple is making the screen easier to fix, does Apple expect it to break more often? Not necessarily. Foldables endure unique stresses: folding cycles, pressure points, dust risks, and long-term crease fatigue. So even if reliability is excellent, the repair scenario is more complicated than on a traditional slab phone. Apple could simply be acknowledging that foldables are different and designing accordingly. And to be clear, easy to repair doesn't automatically mean easy to repair at home. This leak could mean the device is easier for professional technicians to service, Apple's own repair network, authorized service providers, or trained third-party shops. That still matters, because reduced complexity usually equals reduced labor cost, faster turnaround, and potentially fewer full device replacements. Now let's talk about what else the iPhone Ultra, iPhone Fold rumors are saying, because the repairability leak isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a broader wave of claims about Apple's foldable strategy. Current rumors suggest Apple is aiming for a premium, book-style foldable form factor with two key display modes: a smaller outer display around 5.3 inches for quick use, when folded a larger inner display around 7.8 inches when unfolded, giving you a mini tablet experience. If these numbers are accurate, the unfolded screen would land in the sweet spot for reading, multitasking, video editing, note-taking, and split-screen work, basically the kind of usage Apple already excels at on iPad, now condensed into an iPhone-sized footprint. And then there's the thickness. Leaks suggest Apple is targeting an extremely thin design, roughly 4.5 meters when unfolded rolly, 9mm to 9.5mm when folded. If Apple hits those measurements while keeping durability high, that would be a serious engineering flex. Thin foldables look incredible, but thin also raises questions. Battery capacity, thermal performance, hinge strength, and drop resistance. So the real story won't be thin for the sake of thin, it'll be whether Apple can make thin feel solid. Another huge focus is the crease. Multiple foldable phone makers have improved crease visibility over time, but the crease is still one of the biggest psychological barriers for mainstream buyers. Some leaks claim Apple is aiming for a nearly invisible crease and a very tight crease angle, suggesting that the unfolded display could look closer to a traditional glass slab than most foldables today. If Apple manages that, combined with improved longevity and improved repairability, it creates a powerful marketing message. A foldable that feels less like a fragile experiment and more like a normal iPhone you can actually live with. Now let's move under the hood. Rumors point to a flagship-level chipset, something like an A20 class processor or newer, paired with around 12 GB of RAM. That would position the foldable iPhone as an absolute top-tier performance device, capable of heavy multitasking and advanced AI features, which Apple is clearly leaning into across its ecosystem. Battery rumors suggest around 5,000 mAh. Though battery numbers can be tricky because Apple often measures battery life differently than Android manufacturers. Still, if Apple is going foldable, battery life has to be excellent. A large inner display can drain power quickly, and users won't tolerate cool concept, but you have to charge it twice a day at this price level. On cameras, the rumors are pointing toward a dual 48mm setup on the rear, with front-facing cameras potentially available for both folded and unfolded use. That makes practical sense. You want a usable selfie camera whether the phone is closed for quick calls or open for video meetings, but the big question is software. A foldable iPhone can't just be hardware, the experience has to feel intentional. Apple would likely need iOS features tuned specifically for foldable usage, smarter app scaling, better split-screen workflows, improved continuity between the outer and inner displays, and iPad-like multitasking features adapted to the iPhone environment. And that brings us back to why the repairability rumor is so notable. Apple tends to enter categories when it believes it can deliver a complete product experience: hardware, software, long-term support, and usability at scale. If the company is serious about foldables, it would make sense to also address the biggest ownership pain points early, because foldables don't just need to look futuristic on day one, they need to survive year 2, year 3, and beyond. And if something does go wrong, the customer needs to believe repair is possible, practical, and not financially devastating. Now let's talk price, because yes, this is almost certainly going to be expensive. Most speculation places the starting price around $2,000, with UK pricing estimates floating around $1,485 or higher, depending on configuration and taxes. In other words, this likely won't be a slightly pricier iPhone. This will be a new tier. And if Apple really calls it Ultra, that name carries expectations: best materials, best performance, best display tech, best build quality, and premium after-sales support. Apple would have to justify the cost with more than novelty. That's exactly why a repairable modular display could matter so much. At $2,000, buyers aren't just shopping for a phone, they're shopping for peace of mind.